thing White House officials are cheering for, a number of them told me this over the weekend, that if Elon Musk indeed takes Twitter, they hope the first thing he does is put Donald Trump back on it, because they think that if Trump starts tweeting again, it'll just simply remind these voters of the crazy that accompanied his time in office, particularly around January 6th. He'll amplify these fringe messages. He'll amplify these fringe right-wing candidates, and that can only be good for Democrats, they think.
So that is Jonathan Lemire, who is in that reporting contradicting the initial news that came out of the White House, which was that the Biden administration was saying they were a little bit worried about the people that would be potentially allowed back onto Twitter. Well, now apparently they're doing what I think most progressives could have predicted, assuming that we'll just let Trump go crazy, make him front and center, make the news about him, and that will help us, certainly. And they're not saying this out loud, it'll stop us from having to do anything. And so they say, they acknowledge that it could cut both ways. He could eat up an extraordinary amount of political oxygen, but it's also possible that he could push the big lie or feud with other Republicans, or I don't know, inspire a crowd to murder politicians in the Capitol. Do they not get that there are real world consequences to when he spreads these lies and conspiracy theories? It doesn't just stop when a person hits the retweet button. They believe that stuff. They go out there into the world. So David, I'm curious what you think about this strategy of like, just let's wait, let Trump get back on Twitter, and that'll help out a bunch.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, it both has a real impact, but it also, I think they're wrong to think this is going to hurt him. I mean, if anything, he's become a little less popular since being kicked off Twitter. So to bring him back on, put him in the spotlight again, they're making the wrong assumption. I think that they think they won 2020 simply because of Trump. I think largely it was because of COVID. I think people saw the disaster that COVID was and thought that Biden would be able to better handle it. Now the jury's maybe a little out on that, but he's at least understands science and isn't full of crap on that issue. But to think that simply sunlight is the best disinfectant here and it's going to somehow destroy Trump, I think is just wrong. They have to have an actual message. They have to actually, forget the message. They have to deliver now while they're in power. They have to do something. If they don't do that, then they are really setting themselves up for a disaster.
Exactly. Yeah, they need to remember at some point that they're not just campaigning to get into power. They're already in power and they could act like it every once in a while. Yeah, I don't know exactly. Like if all we cared about was the campaign implications of him coming on, which I think is a crazy way to think about the world. But even if we were to do that, I don't know. I mean, his approval rating did go down while he was president, as he was front and center in the news a lot. Was that just because of his social media activity though? I mean, it might well have been the policies that he enacted and all that. And certainly COVID didn't help him. So I think it's an incredibly risky strategy. By the way, Trump says he's not gonna do it. Even if Elon Musk does take over, he says, I'm not going on Twitter. I'm going to stay on Truth. I hope Elon buys Twitter because he'll make improvements to it and he's a good man, but I'm gonna be staying on Truth. He's barely on Truth anyway. And he's a massive liar.
Right, Troth Central, that's what it is.
Troth Censure. Yeah, I don't trust him.
He forgot the name of his own platform. That's like
exactly. In his defense, he hasn't been on it in a long time. Sometimes when I take a long period off of playing a video game, I can't remember all the buttons. That's basically what happened to him with social media. But I don't even trust Elon Musk here. Like in a lot of his statements, since he supposedly is starting the process of buying it, there's been a lot of hedging. I'm not even like, I think that there's a good chance that he ends up buying it in the end, but I don't think that it's guaranteed at this point. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, there was a Reuters piece that came out saying all the reasons why he may not. I mean, the Tesla valuation has gone down considerably, and that was supposed to be part of how he was going to be able to, afford to do this. So, as you said, I think the jury's out on whether or not it actually goes through. I do think it seems likely that it will, but there is a little doubt there in terms of if whether or not he will end up buying it. But ultimately, Trump's going to be back on Twitter. I mean, he cares about the audience. Sure. So if Elon Musk buys it and Trump's reinstated, he'll of course be back. That's where the audience is. So yeah, there's no doubt about that in my mind.
I think there's a good chance. By the way, I checked it. The Tesla stock has recovered a little bit since that big dip, but it is still below where it was at just a couple of weeks ago, let alone like more than a year.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.